Throughout history, some people have been considered so evil that the FBI probably would have been happier to keep them and the details of their crimes away from the public. Here are 15 of those criminals. Number 1. Jamie Osuna. Jamie Osuna, also known as the Man with 1,000 Faces, referring to the tattoos, including Joker's smile and a pentagram, covering his face, was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the 2011 killing of 37-year-old mother of 6, Yvette Pena, in the El Morocco Motel hotel room in Bakersfield, California. That hotel was said to be in a bad neighborhood and known for illicit activities going on inside of it. Pena is said to have fallen on hard times and was living at the hotel. Although he denied it for 6 years, he eventually confessed that he was, in fact, the one who was guilty of murdering her in 2017 in an interview with a female reporter named Olivia Lavois. As the footage was rolling, he said, "I did sadistically, premeditatively, deliberately torture and kill her." When asked why, he said, "Just I seen an opportunity. I didn't know her. I didn't know her. I met her. I was introduced to her. I met her like one time and I came back the next night and I seen an opportunity." He also boasted that he killed Pena the way he did so that he could have lasting memories of the ordeal. On March 28, 2017, Osuna pled guilty to killing Pena and was spared the death penalty for having done so. Osuna openly mocked members of Pena's family at hearings by smiling and waving at them. And Osuna's crime spree did not just stop because he was incarcerated. While in Corcoran State Prison, he was charged multiple times for assaulting guards by throwing various bodily fluids at them. Then on March 9, 2019, after almost 2 years without having a cellmate, a man named Luis Romero, aged 44, was found dead in his cell. "Ha ha ha" was written on the walls, along with "the man with 1,000 faces." Despite assumptions, Osuna's mother said he didn't come out of the womb, an evil killer, or whatever they say. He was a normal, loving kid. He didn't come out of the womb, an evil killer or whatever the thing. He was a normal, loving kid. Osuna was diagnosed with unspecified schizophrenia spectrum, antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder, likely due to his rough childhood, by psychiatrists. Number 2, Dale Hausner and Samuel Deitman. Dale Hausner and Samuel Deitman, a serial crime duo, both in their early 30s, committed their crimes for almost 15 months, from May 2005 to August 2006 in Arizona. The two, typically under the influence of methamphetamine, would randomly set objects on fire and drive around, target, and shoot at pedestrians and animals, mainly dogs and horses, that they came across. Their crime spree ended when a series of tips helped connect Hausner and Deitman to their crimes. In fact, so many people were calling in tips that Paul Penzone, who ran the Phoenix Police Department's silent witness at the time, said that he had to triple the amount of his staff due to handle the number of calls coming in. Make no mistake about it, there is evil in the world. He, Hausner, represented evil, Penzone said. The community was living in fear. There was not a waking moment that you didn't feel the intensity you could have cut with a knife, he added, referring to the time when Hausner and Deitman were committing their crimes. One person was reported as a friend of Deitman, named Ron Horton, who said that he had confessed to some of the killings after drinking. At Hausner's trial, he was found guilty for over 80 felonies charged against him in a single trial. He was sentenced to death 6 times. He killed himself before he could be executed. Deitman was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility was parole. It is believed that the pair killed 8 and shot 29 people. Interestingly, weeks before his capture, Hausner interviewed Mike Tyson as the boxing photojournalist for Ring Sports and NightNews.com. Number 3, Charles Ng and Leonard Blake. Another pair of crime-committing buddies were Charles Ng and Leonard Blake. Ng, who was born in Hong Kong but moved to the United States from Canada on student visa, met Blake in 1981 through a survivalist magazine advertisement he placed. Both men were discharged from the Marine Corps, but for various different reasons. Lake was diagnosed with schizoid personality disorder, and he was medically discharged in 1971 after having a delusional breakdown while in Vietnam. Ng, on the other hand, was arrested by military for stealing weapons. He faced being court-martialed, but he somehow managed to escape. That's when he met Lake. However, he was not dishonorably discharged until 1984 after serving 18 months in the military stockade at the U.S. Dispensary Barracks, but we'll come back to that. After meeting in 1980, it became apparent that they were two peas in a pod, and Lake invited Ng to share a cabin near Wileysville, California, that belonged to the family of Lake's ex-wife named Clarilyn Bellas. Next to the cabin, Lake built what he called a dungeon. Over the next year, Lake and Ng worked together to commit heinous crimes against males and females of all ages. In 1982, federal authorities raided the mobile home that Ng and Lake shared in Ukiah. They seized a large stash of weapons and explosives. Lake was released on bond, but he jumped bail and hid out at the cabin in Wileysville. Ng was returned to the Marines' custody. That's when he served his time for the theft before being discharged in 1984. When both men were out of custody again, their crimes continued, and they likely would have continued if it wasn't for Ng's kleptomania. On June 2, 1985, he was arrested for stealing a $75 vice from a lumber store in San Francisco and then fleeing the scene when an employee tried to approach him about the stolen item. Lake was with him at the time, but he was found in the car. He told the police that the whole thing was a misunderstanding and that he had paid for the vice. Both men were brought into questioning, but Lake sneakily swallowed a cyanide pill and died before a case could be brought against him. Ng still remains on death row to this day. Together they are believed to have killed between 11 to 25 people. Number 4. William Bonin. William Bonin was also known as the Freeway Killer or Freeway Strangler because most of his victims were found dumped along the highway. Between May 1979 and June 1980, Bonin, sometimes with accomplices, killed 21 young men and boys in Southern California. Bonin was said to have had a rough upbringing. He was arrested in 1957 for stealing the tax, and he was reportedly SA'd by an adult counselor in the juvenile detention center he was in. As he continued to grow up, his attraction to boys only grew. But at the urgence of his mother, who did not accept his homosexuality, he got engaged to a woman named Linda. But at the age of 21, he returned home after being honorably discharged from the military after serving for 2 years to discover that his fiancée, who had since birthed their son, took off to marry another man. From there, his life continued to spiral. He began kidnapping and raping young boys in his car. His first victim is said to have been 14 years old in November 1968. At least one of the boys told his parents about what Bonin had done, and his mother called authorities to make a report. By January 1969, extensive reports were being made by local police to locate a man matching Bonin's description. And on January 28, 1969, an El Segundo officer stopped his vehicle. There was a 16-year-old with him in the car. He was arrested and charged on several charges regarding his inappropriate behavior, and he remained in custody on June 11, 1974. But his crimes would only continue and intensify upon his release. In 1975, he was arrested again and pleaded guilty to 2 more allegations of inappropriate behavior with a minor. During this second arrest, he told cops, "Next time there won't be any witnesses." He was released on November 1st, 1978, and you guessed it, his criminal behavior was not curbed by the most recent stint in prison. From then on out, as he warned the police, he began killing his victims. He was eventually caught after killing a minimum of 21 boys and possibly 15 others that did not have enough evidence to prove Bonin's responsibility. For his crimes, he was punished to death, a sentence that was carried out via lethal injection on February 23, 1996, when he was 49 years old. He was the first person in California to be put to death that way. Number 5. Israel Keyes. Like Husner and Diatamin, Israel Keyes would kill at random. In fact, Keyes had what he deemed as kill kits hidden all throughout the United States in case the opportunity for him to kill arose. His crimes were committed between 2001 and 2012. He has successfully linked to 3 murders, but is suspected of committing more than 11 others. Similar to many other serial killers, Keyes started out by killing animals. When he wasn't being required to do so for providing sustenance to his family, at least on one occasion, he skinned an animal alive in front of other churchgoers. It is believed that Keyes killed his first victims between 1996 and 1997 around Colville. As he grew into an adult, he would commit several SAs and enroll in the military. When he was honorably discharged after a few years of service, he did not admit to killing during this time in the Army, but he did admit to raping 2 women. After his discharge, he moved to Washington and later Alaska, where he started a construction business. He has also owned property in New York. He admitted to committing 4 murders in Washington, 1 while in New York and 1 in Alaska. In addition, he is the suspect of a series of 2017 crimes committed by the Boca Killer near Boca Raton, Florida. He was caught by authorities after demanding ransom after killing one of his victims, and the police were able to track withdrawals he made from his account as he moved around the country. Keyes was eventually arrested in Texas on March 13, 2012. He was later extradited to Alaska. Before his trial, Keyes told investigators that he wanted to be executed within a year. However, he would ultimately kill himself on December 2, 2012, in his cell. He left behind drawings of 11 skulls, which many believe represented his 11 victims, and a pentagram. His death left many questions unanswered and cases unclosed.